a delegation from the West African Regional Bloc is heading to Niger. The decision emerged after a meeting with ECOWAS Chair President Bola Tinubu and the Benin Republic President Patrice Talon in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Niger's president has tweeted saying the hard-won achievements will be safeguarded. All Nigerians who love democracy and freedom will see to it. Well, we have with us today a senior research officer at the NIIA, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Dr. Kester Onor. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're going to be talking about, of course, the situation in Niger Republic and how to curb this coup pandemic in Africa. Thank you for joining us. Recently, at the ECOWAS chairmanship give-out ceremony, so to speak, President Tinubu was given the chairmanship of ECOWAS, and he was in his speech discussing all the coups that West Africa has been facing and our state of insecurity and how to curb some of these, only for another coup to occur just a matter of weeks after he stated this. Niger's politics are certainly very tricky, involving France. Can you tell us more on what you believe created this situation?
Howard, thank you very much for inviting me once again. Well, the president of Nigeria and the president of ECOWAS, the chairman of ECOWAS, he has emphasized that we can no longer tolerate unconstitutional change of government in West Africa. And like we saw what happened yesterday, the drama that played out yesterday started from house arrest. And then later, the military announced that the government has been overthrown, giving instances and the reason why the coup took place. And initially, it was reported that even the chief of defense staff, was not in consonance with the announcement, but he has come out to make a statement that yes, he supported the coup. However, we know that unconstitutional change of government in this part of the world is not allowed. And ECOWAS has equally, emphasized that they are not going to, allow it. So it's now left for us to see. But we equally have to understand that Niger is a sovereign nation. So we are waiting to see what will play out both from there and even the delegation that ECOWAS has even dispatched to see the negotiation that we go on, maybe in the next coming days.
Dr. Onor, you can't help but think that Niger probably took a cue from Guinea and, of course, Mali as well, with their round of coups, as it were. Do you think the reasons being given are actually tenable in this case? Because, yes, we know Niger is prone to coups in the past, but there's been a lull with the emergence of President Bazoum. He more or less broke that, continuation of coups in the past. And to a large extent, when you take a look at the reasons being branded by the coup plotters, is it enough to instigate that move?
Well, if you look at, let's look at the coup in Mali, because when we talk about Mali, there was a coup in 2020, and that is August 2020, and May 2021.
Indeed.
Then we look at Guinea, we had a coup there. There was coup there in September 2021. Then we talk about Burkina Faso, both January 2022 and September 2022. And if you look at the reasons being given by the coup plotters, it's all about, talk about security, that is insecurity. They talk about poverty, they talk about corruption. And we know that security crisis is a fertile ground for coups. So when we look at the reason being given, but then the main issue is that if we look at the activities of those coup plotters that have taken over the mantle of leadership, have they been able to resolve those issues? So it's another issue that we'll be maybe discussing later. Because if they have been able to resolve those issues, you will now say yes, that they have come on board, to solve the problem. But we see that even the entire region of Sahel, there has been this crisis of insecurity that have undermined, the human security of the people living within the area.
And did you want to go?
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking, we began with the ECOWAS reaction to this, but yes, we've seen a measure of shuttle diplomacy. Of course, President Talon has also been drafted to get into the whole imbroglio to try and make an impact. But their presence, yes, ECOWAS has condemned this. AU has joined the whole thing. The same thing with the US and, of course, the AU as well. But do you think all this, because the coup plotters are still digging in, they're still not shifting grounds. Yeah, perhaps maybe a little bit of engagement, but will that change the narratives? Well,
it depends on the people of Niger. If the people of Niger, because part of the challenge, that's part of the challenges we are having in all this issue, is that when you, for example, look at that of Guinea, you see the Guinean people celebrating and even appreciating the military for taking over the government. Considering the fact that the former president was even making an attempt to change the constitution and go for the third term. So if you look at the level of maybe the people, if the people of Niger are now coming out, to appreciate the junta that have just taken over the mantle of leadership, then there is nothing the international community can do. Maybe there may be sanction and all these things, and gradually, but in a situation where the people of Niger will now come out en masse, that look, we don't support what is happening, then it will now give the international community the impetus and even empower the ECOWAS even for them to intervene, because I believe that there is this ECOWAS security architecture that is still in place. So we have, modus operandi of going through all this process. So we are now waiting to see what will happen in the coming days or hours.
And that's a bit of a trick line right there between national sovereignty and foreign implications, putting their mouth in our business. But there's a fine line, because sometimes the balance is necessary. Okay, and speaking of that foreign interference, France, I'm wondering what you feel their role has been, if any, in the coup or preventing it. We do know that the former president was an ally of France. We do know that they tried to overthrow him at least twice in since 2015 at least. Of course, they were foiled, but this last one actually worked. What do you think the role of France is in this coup?
Well, before I go to the role of France, let me say that even the international community, if they feel that there is the military junta that have just taken over the reign of power, that they are anti-people, they can invoke responsibility to protect doctrine. That is R2P, because if they feel that they are an imposition on the will of the people, yes, the R2P says that in a situation whereby the government cannot protect the people, the international community have the moral obligation for them to intervene. So on that note, this issue of sovereignty will be overridden. So, but now looking at France again, let's equally cast our mind back that even the coup in Burkina Faso and Mali, that even that is the government, the military government in Burkina Faso and that of Mali, they have equally said that they don't want to do anything with France again. And they've equally ordered France to move their troops out of their country. And France has moved their troops, and those troops are now stationed in Niger Republic. So one now begin to wonder, the moment you move your troop and you now station them in Niger Republic, with the presence of your troop, coup d'etat,
now
it has taken place. There was an article I wrote on Conversation Africa, when the former president of Nigeria, Muhammad Buhari, invited AFRICOM to come and help Nigeria to fight insecurity. I stated the obvious, that the training of African military, that this thing will lead to coups. Many people actually, they said no, it will not happen, but we are now seeing it. If you look at maybe even the junta that took over in Mali and those that took over in Côte d'Ivoire, all the juntas were part of the training, were part of the AFRICOM training. There was a time that even the U.S. House, where they were questioning the military command, that these people that you train, we are they trained how to organize coup against a democratically elected government. So when we look at this issue, we will now begin to put 1 and 2 together and see what is actually
literally creating their own monsters.
Indeed. And if I may use Mali as an example, Colonel Goita recently has been accused of trying to foist his presence on the Malian people and to extend his stay in power. We know there was a transitional government of which was initiated by the military, but of course we saw how that happened. It was liquidated, and the constitution was equally tampered with to a large extent. And you could question this condemnation of France's presence in that country and the welcoming of the Russians to a large extent.
Yeah.
Now, we saw how the crowd was whipped up, the public support for that. But here in Niger, when the coup began, the house arrest issue and all that, there was opposition from the public. The footage we saw most of the time, the public were against it. There was civil society that came out, denouncing what was happening. So we have an air of uncertainty. Yes, the military has also come out that the constitution has been liquidated to a large extent. So where do we go from here? There's an air of uncertainty, as it were. So can we say what happened in Mali is also applicable to Niger, or there's a bit of a...
Well, the initial opposition we saw, there was this claim that they were government supporters, and the military fired some few shots on the air to disperse them. But then in the coming days, it's now left for us to see what will happen. If the opposition continue, I believe that both the international community, like ECOWAS and the AU, and even the European Union and other powers are monitoring the situation. Because if you are talking about Niger at this particular time, you should know that Niger is very, very pivotal. Because both the European Union and France and even the Americans that are working with Niger, considering the fact that both Cote d'Ivoire and both Burkina Faso and Guinea, are out of their reach. So they are now working with Niger, trying to, restore peace to the troubled Sahel region. So it's now left for us to see what will happen in the next few days. If the new military, that is, if the new junta in Niger now insists that France and maybe other Western powers should equally go, that they're now inviting Russia, then we now see a kind of a theater of drama taking place in that region.
Or what other people call a scramble, the second scramble for Africa.
Well, the second scramble has already begun. You understand? But we're now talking about that there is a Russia now stamping their feet. Through Wagner Group, stamping their foot on Africa.
So how worried should we be? Nigeria is, if Niger is affected, there will be spillover to Nigeria. We're not too far away. It has said that also Mali, because Niger is on the southwest neighboring Mali, they would get a spillover. Nobody is going to be unaffected by this. With Russia now putting heavy boots on ground, there's issues with France in their own francophone speak. Who can we run to? I mean, who can we trust in terms of foreign nations having our best interests while overlooking their own best interests? Because it seems that even though France has had feet on ground, it's just been getting worse with these coups. Now Russia, they have their own issues at home. They're here. We know the Wagner Group has issues of its own, like...
Oh, but besides, Prigozhin is also saying after their exploit in Belarus, they're coming to Africa.
So we don't want to become the dumping ground for all of this, but it's seeming as though something is afoot.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that there is a serious crisis in the Sahel region. All the Sahel countries are involved. If you look at liberal democracy, the liberal democracy has not benefited us. People's expectations are not met. And you look at these things, then the question is this: why is it that whenever these coups take place, then you now see people applauding and some people welcoming the juntas? You understand? We know that, coup does not just take place. You know, even some politicians invite the military to come and intervene. You know, and especially in situations we've seen that liberal democracy has not guaranteed development in Africa. You understand? So I believe that the issue of good governance should be looked into, so that regardless of how meager the resources we have in this type of the world, those resources should be, equitably distributed, to the masses, so that at least it's not the masses know, yes, we have problem in Africa, but they want to see our governance system doing very much. They want to see them working to show that sense of duty that they want to actually address this problem, and some of the issues we have to look into is the root causes of this problem. We talk about the issue of poverty. We talk about the issue of inability of the elite to meet the expectation of the masses. We talk about the issue of weak institutions. As long as we have weak institutions in this part of the world that cannot dispense justice to the expectation of the people, then people now see the military as the final arbiter.
All right, let me take you on that, Dr. Onor. I'm particularly interested on the issue of insecurity. When you said the military as the final arbiter, and we have... I
didn't say they're not, but they are the expectations of the people as the final arbiter.
Yes, expectations, all right, but when it comes to insecurity issues now, has this military dictatorship considerably weakened their institutions? Because you still have, militant insurgency along that Sahel region, whether it's Chad, Niger, northern Nigeria, even parts of Benin and all that, all those regions, they're still holding, cross-border attacks, insurgency at some point. So, and you've already alluded to at some point when we're talking about, okay, fine, does it mean you have a military government, the whole place is secure, ordinarily?
But I told you that they've not been able to even perform, because some of the places we have military government, problems still exist.
They still persist. Mali, to a large extent, despite, sacking the French, who helped you a few years ago, when there was an insurgency that almost overran the northern part of the country, and they're still having issues in that perspective.
Frying pan to fire type situation.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I look at here, the challenge we have here is that, if bringing maybe foreign partners or maybe to solve your problem, they have their own objective. They have their national interests, So they are not coming to solve your problem at the detriment of their own. I said it once that there is no free food in a capitalist market, Neither will there be free food in a socialist market. He that blow the piper dictates the tune. You understand? So some of these crises we are having here and there in Africa is actually to their advantage. You understand? Because if we should be able, if we can train our security forces, equip them with the state-of-art equipment, supply them with the state-of-art equipment, they should be able to effectively man our national borders. You understand? Because the porosity of those borders has created,
all these issues.
Has created safe haven for all these terrorist organizations for them to operate. So as long as our security personnel, if they don't have the capacity and the wherewithal and the technical know-how for them to man those borders, you understand, this problem will continue to occur. Remember that even some of these foreign actors coming into the country are interested in our resources.
Yes.
And when you have crisis, it's equally to their benefit, because those resources, they can as well man it without paying the due royalties to the government.
It's a lot to
take in.
It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to discuss, but we're out of time. Dr. Kester, always good to have you in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in to discuss this.
Thank you very much for always inviting me.
Cool.
Thank you.